Hello everybody and welcome back to One Nerd to Rule Them All. And in today's video, we are going to be looking into the 20 Space Marine Legions explained before the Horus Heresy. Of course, this is our Horus Heresy series, so this sounds like something you'll be into? Then just keep on watching. Before the galaxy burned, before brother turned against brother, there were 20 Space Marine Legions, each led by a superhuman Primarch, forged for conquest. But what were they before the Horus Heresy? What defined them? And what secrets lie within their origin? Today we break down all 20 legions, including the lost ones, and explore what they stood for before everything fell apart. Let's start with the ghosts. The 1st and the 11th Legion are officially expunged from Imperial records, known only as the Lost Legions. Their names, deeds, and even their Primarchs have been wiped from history. Theories range from genetic corruption to refusal to follow the Imperial truth, but officially, we may never know. Now let's start with the Dark Angels, who are the 1st Legion. The Dark Angels, or the 1st Legion, were the Emperor's prototype, tactical masters, wielders of ancient Terran knowledge, and clad in black. Led by Leon L. Johnson, they were versatile and secretive, even before the Heresy. Their hidden divisions, like the Death Wing and the Raven Wing, would foreshadow a legacy of secrecy and shame. Now we move on to the Emperor's children. Proud, noble, and obsessed with perfection, the Emperor's children are led by Fulgrim. They bore the Emperor's own symbol and were considered paragons of culture and discipline. Their drive for excellence would eventually lead them to damnation. Before the Heresy, they were golden examples of Imperial nobility. Now let's have a look at the Iron Warriors. The Iron Warriors were siege masters, grim, unflinching, and brutal in warfare. Led by Perturabo, they were coldly efficient, but underappreciated. Resentment festered, even before the Heresy, as they were always given the hardest and bloodiest of tasks. Let's look at the White Scars now. Led under Jagatai Khan, were masters of speed warfare. They blended the discipline of the Astartes with the nomadic tribal culture of Chogoris, known for hit-and-run tactics and rapid assault. They were unpredictable and proud of it. Now let's look at the Space Wolves. Lemon Russ led the feral Space Wolves, warriors of Fenris, raised in a culture of strength, honour, and bloody combat. They were the Emperor's executioners, always watching from the shadows, ready to bring wrath upon any legion that strayed. Now let's look at the Imperial Fists. Rogal Dorn and the Imperial Fists represented duty, stoicism, and unbreakable defence. Builders of fortresses, paragons of loyalty, they were key to the defence of Terra itself. No legion was more trusted with the Emperor's walls. Now let's look at the Night Lords. The Night Lords, led by Conrad Kurz, used fear as a weapon. Once noble in their quest to enforce order, they devolved into brutal enforcers, using terror, torture, and execution to maintain peace. Even before the Heresy, they were feared by friends and foe alike. Now let's look at the Blood Angels. Sanguinius, the angelic Primarch, led the Blood Angels, a noble and artistic legion, cursed with a dark thirst. Their grace in battle was unmatched, but hidden beneath was the genetic flaw that would shape their tragic destiny. Now we have the Iron Hands, not to be confused with the Iron Fists. Ferrus Manus forged the Iron Hands in the image of cold efficiency. Obsessed with strength and the elimination of weakness, they embraced technology and cybernetic enhancements even before the Heresy. Emotion was weakness, and flesh was weakness. Now let's look at the World Eaters. Angron led the World Eaters, a legion once noble, turned brutal through the butcher's nails. Cybernetic implants that suppressed pain and drove rage. Once gladiators and conquerors, their descent into madness began long before the Heresy. Now let's look at the Ultramarines. Under Robote Guilliman, the Ultramarines became the most disciplined and well-organised legion. They ruled the vast empire of Ultramar and were considered the model legion, orderly, rational, and supremely effective in warfare. Now let's look at the Death Guard. Mortarion forged the Death Guard. It is a crucible of poison and plague. They were stoic, resistant, and enduring. Pre-heresy, they prided themselves on withstanding anything, and feared nothing, not even death itself. Now let's look at the Thousand Sons. Magnus the Red led the Thousand Sons, a legion of scholars, psychers, and secret knowledge. Gifted and cursed with sorcerous power, they sought to understand the warp, even when forbidden. Before the heresy, they walked a dangerous line between enlightenment and heresy. And let's look at the Lunar Wolves, later known as the Sons of Horus. The Lunar Wolves under Horus were the Emperor's favourite sons. Charismatic, noble, and powerful, they were the vanguard of the Great Crusade. When Horus was named War Master, everything changed. But before the fall, they were legends. Now let's look at the Word Bearers. Lorgar and the Word Bearers were the first to fall. Not to rage or ambition, but to faith. Spurned for worshipping the Emperor, they turned to darker gods. Before the heresy, they were devoted missionaries spreading the imperial truth, or their own version of it. Now let's look at the Salamanders. The Salamanders, led by Vulcan, were guardians of humanity. Unlike many legions, they valued mortal lives and sought to protect the weak. Artisans and warriors both, they carried the flame of compassion through the darkest war zones. Now let's look at the Raven Guard. Corvus Corax forged the Raven Guard into masters of stealth and sabotage. They struck from the shadows and vanished before retaliation. Idealists at heart, they believed in liberation, not just conquest. Now let's look at the Alpha Legion. The Alpha Legion, led by Alfarius and Omegon, were the ultimate enigma. Masters of sabotage, misinformation, and infiltration. Even before the heresy, no one truly knew where their loyalties lay. And perhaps no one still does. These were the legions before the fall. Heroes, monsters, brothers. What happened next would reshape the galaxy forever. If you want to dive into the Horus Heresy itself, make sure to like and subscribe and join to the channel for the next chapter in the Warhammer Horus Heresy series. Down in the description you will find 2 links. The first, my partner Rothmer's channel, so if you enjoy MMOs and action RPGs, then you might want to have a look at that. He actually does play a lot of Warhammer games, so you'll probably really enjoy that. And of course, if you like Warhammer, which if you're watching this, I can assume you do, then you might want to jump over to our joint channel, where Rothmer and I are building, painting, and we'll soon be battling our Warhammer armies against each other. So if that sounds like something you'll be into, then subscribe to that also. Anyway, that'll be it from me today. Have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are in the world. And as always, bye for now, guys.